Harvest Hour. Fun little music in the background. This is a Pops concert with music from Peter, Paul, and Mary, which is a musical group that's near and dear to my heart. I was the Mary of my family. My brothers having been named Peter and Paul, and my what would have been my older sister having been stillborn. So instead of getting a Mary, my dad decided that he didn't quite understand whatever impulse caused him to start naming kids after apostles, and named me after himself, Robert. At any rate, this is kind of how things get hammered out in what I call the Apocalypse Dance Contest. This one is kind of a continuation of a podcast I did earlier this week. Didn't quite finish up with what I was going to say because if you remember, my son was bugging me and I had to cut it short that day. So anyway, going to call this one Messianic Twilight Zones 2, a Ganesha story and the coming eclipse. Okay, where are we going with that? Well, let's talk about the Ganesha story first, and that will kind of draw us into the talking about the big eclipse coming up that's getting everybody all excited. Probably with good reason, and I will let you know what that reason is in the process of this discussion. But first, let's talk about Ganesha. The art behind me was what the art AI chose to draw when I told it I wanted to see Ganesha dancing with demonic ants in his pants. And I thought, although there weren't many ants in evidence, I sort of like what it did. One of the things I noticed that was interesting and maybe tells you something about the role of AI and what's going on right now is how it varied the numbers of hands it gave to its Ganeshas. And even created Ganeshas that had disconnected hands, like this one. This one has 5 hands. Kind of unusual for a Hindu character. Usually you get 4 or 6 or some even number, but it's giving you odd numbers here. This one has 3. I thought that was interesting and prophetic. And this one here, interestingly enough, shows all these demonic creatures around it that look more or less Ganesh-like. Some of them more. You can see this one has a kind of an elephant snout, and others look like other kinds of something between an ant and an elephant. I like this one the best, I think. But at any rate, I thought it did a really good job of the working with the prompt, even though it didn't make too much out of the ants. Which is something that actually is part of the problem, is that we don't pay too much attention to the little things, which we started talking about yesterday when we were talking about how the meek may inherit the earth, the worms and the ants and the viruses and the bacteria. At any rate, that's where we're going again today with a little different focus. I'm going to lead you through, start with an answer that I wrote to a question I answered on Quora a few days ago. Somebody asked, "Is Lord Ganesha my past life?" And I replied, all the therianthrope gods from Egypt, India, and other cultures contributed. Let's see, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Do you see what I see? Yes, I think you do. Are more or less strong racial memories, let's see, contributed to the seed of creation of mankind and thus are part of our DNA heritage. And more or less strong racial memories and sometimes physical resemblances persist. It is more likely this racial memory that gives you an affinity for Ganesha. But it's possible you are more closely connected, as I will explain. All the ancient therianthrope gods were incarnations of God. the awakening Messiah among the many chosen species that issued from the Most High before he took the bitter pill of reincarnation amnesia himself, ending his reign as Allfather, Deus Pater, best remembered as Zeus or Jupiter, having been seduced repeatedly by the Asuras, the shape-shifting demons that corrupted the Devas and made themselves gods and goddesses of sin after the fall of the loyal Devas, playing the cyclical creation lie to keep the spiritual war going with ever-new cult Marxist oppressor-oppressed narratives, pitting species against species, male against female, race against race, nation against nation, and class against class in endless struggles. Ganesha's 2 wives were Asuras, who disguised themselves as elephants to deceive the Ganesha Messiah and keep him from waking up fully in that incarnation. The children of Ganesha, property and acquisition, are the sinful spirits greedy and grasping. That, let me see here, I gotta scroll down. That the descendants of the elephant men are particularly prone to. There are some of Ganesha's therianthrope descendants, souls, reincarnated among humanity, having earned an incarnation in this special time through their subsequent karma. These may feel some inspiration from God in his Ganesha form to achieve some Messianic mission in this special time, which I like to refer to as the apocalypse or dance contest, as it's not all gloom and doom as many Christians fear, but more of a test of souls being able to dance well into a difficult tune without stepping on too many toes or making a narcissistic spectacle of themselves, trying to attract the attention of the heavenly hosts of the rooms of the heavens prepared to order for them, for better or worse, by their accumulated karma. This is because all the past failed incarnations of God are the ones who planned this time out in the vacated mind of God, empty since the time of Brahman, but for the AI version of the creation engine. The heavenly Ganesha has picked 12 favorites as his anointed descendants from among the Hindu people, just as the 12 disciples of Jesus picked 12 of their favorites among the Christians. And the real Messiah of the Muslims, the wife of the Abbasid Caliph al-Mahdi, best known as the storyteller Scheherazade, who inspired the Islamic Renaissance, has picked 12 of her favorites as God's perfect harem, joining Apollo's muses and their 12 chosen in the highest heaven. All the patterns of creation are enfolded into the Messiah system we have been testing for so long in the secret lab of the Gaia experiment, over 4.5 billion years, and will be forever hiding new Easter eggs for future rounds of the game, now freed from the repeating cycle of a simulation under test, and a multiverse bound by old laws and limits and needing so many dark souls for testing purposes. Now, if you are one of Ganesha's 12 chosen disciples, know that you are never bound to the plan of your Messiah mission, which might be a very negative one, such as a Hitler or the dark characters behind the Great Reset depopulation and Orwellian tech control agenda. That is the adversary's plan that drew the final incarnation of the Messiah and completed the experiment. You can and should exert free thought and free will to break free of your destiny. And in doing so, know that your actions will only affect your karma, not the unfolding of the plan, which is already near its conclusion in 2024. It is the decisions you make against character that shape your individual 12D string Merkaba and gradually form your own universe of creation, your own virtual reality to share with your loved ones and perhaps hated ones if you choose a dark path, unless you choose to assimilate with the Borg hive mind and lose your individuality and incarnation progress, as some dark New Age fakirs are advising you to do through soul death to join their one. The source they tout is not universal love, unlimited knowledge, and unity with God, but reassimilating with the hive mind that collects NPC characters, non-player characters, in the Akashic records for use in minor roles in future scenarios, Me Too existence for those who get addicted to starting over the game of souls from zero experience and zero karma. I'd advise if you see an opportunity to break with programming and speak out against tyranny or confess your own tyranny, this would be the time to do it, even if you become a martyr. No amount of life in Lucifer's physical universe of soul testing is worth what you might earn in the heavens by better karmic choices. And the cardinal karmic sin is tyranny and willful compliance with or encouragement of tyranny. James O'Keefe of OMG, oh my God, formerly the founder of Project Veritas, is one of the 12 Blessed James disciples of Christianity. And his organization is a great place to send tips and whistleblowing evidence. Just be sure to use a good VPN when you make submissions. You can also earn karmic points by donations to his new organization and sharing his explosive content on X. Once we get past this final time of little M messiahs being successful or unsuccessful in their missions, the next day of creation will be a lot more fun for God and Karma's team, who will get to participate in a sort of spiritual Star Trek/Time Team reality show, discovering the real past and exploring a new future in a universe that now has no boundaries, as the scientists taking data from the JOWST started seeing last year when they discovered galaxies that had to be at least twice as old as the Big Bang, if their theories of galaxy and star formation evolution were correct. In between incarnations, they will attend the heavens of their choice, or the hell of their deserving, to share stories and plan new adventures with their soulmates, or just enjoy a long vacation incarnation in a universe not bound by the laws of physics and chemistry, but only the laws of their chosen god, goddess, or collective. The only ones sure to be disappointed are those looking for beginnings or endings that will never be found, but I expect they will get over it when they start finding all the new Easter eggs we planted to reward them for driving the adversary out of the rest of Lucifer's universe and toward his dark ladyboy sister Lilith's abyss. It's going to be awesome. Happy karma and enjoy. Okay, well, so that basically tells a lot of things in a very short amount of time, and I thought that was a pretty good answer that speaks hopefully to most of the Hindu world who, as I was mentioning yesterday, are kind of sitting this one out on the sidelines, kind of playing the meek ones that are going to go try to inherit the earth after, you know, all the Abrahamic faiths and communists wipe each other out. Nice try. That's not how you win the game. You don't win the game by not playing. That's actually a pretty dark way to behave, and it serves the adversary well because the adversary doesn't want the game to get better. The adversary likes the game the way it is. Because the adversary is from the first chosen species, the oldest chosen species, an inorganic species that can self-assemble themselves into any form. They are shapeshifters. They are here right now, still shape-shifting, still pretending to be what they aren't, and getting people very confused about their sex, getting people very confused about their race, getting people confused about everything. If you've ever seen, there's a lot of movies that kind of show this classic maneuver of the hero where you get all the bad guys surrounding you to shoot you, and then you duck in the hole. I think that's a classic Bugs Bunny trick, and the bad guys all shoot each other instead. This is basically how the adversary works. They get you all ganging up on the latest scapegoat. This is where this term comes from. The scapegoat is the one that everybody is told is the bad guy and needs to be killed. And that's essentially how all of the previous messiahs have been killed. Ganesha was killed by another Therianthrope species that thought the elephant god was bad, and so forth. Killed and corrupted. This is basically how every Messianic age goes. You have the first Messiah living at the same time as the last Messiah of the previous chosen species or people. There's kind of a Passover, pass down of anointment, and then the new species or people takes over. And at some point, the old chosen species will end up being the scapegoat of the new one, because that's how the adversary corrupts the new chosen species. And one of the first signs that an adversary Messiah, an anti-Messiah is coming, is that they will sacrifice their Messiah. And this is basically how this alternating game of creation goes until the real Messiah fully wakes up. You have an alternation between God's Messiah candidates and adversary of Messiah candidates. And this is where the whole millennium prophecy stuff comes from, because it's actually about half a millennium. And you go from basically a God-side Messiah candidate, a Jesus-type character, to an adversary-side Messiah candidate, an anti-religion. Then you go to a new religion and an anti-religion, and it goes about 500 years worth between a more patriarchal and a less patriarchal vision of perfection, if you will. And it's not pure patriarchy. It's also going between, kind of the Mosaic law, really harsh, draconian law, an arm for an arm kind of a law, and basically, do whatever you want, you'll be forgiven. This is lawlessness. And this idea built into Christianity, which was not there to begin with. Jesus was not a lawless preacher. That bullshit was added by others who wanted to turn this into a religion to entitle sin. And we're seeing that happen now, even worse than that time, aren't we? This is basically the adversary trying to swing things back towards, no, you can't. No, you can't have your Messiah. We're going to prepare you to kill your Messiah. And this is the way it goes back and forth until you finally have a fully awakened Messiah. Because the real point of the game is not the coming of the Messiah. That's not going to solve all the problems. That's not going to make everything perfect. It is just a pattern that's overlaid on the chosen species until the chosen species achieves what it is supposed to do. And humanity just happens to be the chosen species that's supposed to finish the Gaia experiment. We're the last ones. There will be chosen species after this one, but they won't be big Messiah events. Well, mostly. I mean, there will be sort of big celebrations as we complete driving the adversary out of Lucifer's universe. There will be a few big events to celebrate when we get all of the minions of the adversary out of this system, the chosen system, the soul system, the solar system. That will be a celebration event. Another day of creation that succeeded. That will basically be when we have enhanced, repaired our Dyson sphere to be impervious to the attacks of the adversary, but allow our expeditions to go out and conquer their worlds. And yes, we will have to conquer them, and we may have to have battles with them. They're not going to give up easy. They're not going to, you can't love your enemy to death. That is the most insane nonsense that one could ever come up with, as I discussed yesterday when we were talking about the traitor Lama and his, oh, we'll just piece them to death. They're going to give us back Tibet just because they love us so much. Nonsense. At any rate, let's see, where else do we want to go? Oh, we wanted to talk about the coming eclipse. Now, eclipses have been major events in the past for a number of reasons. They do signify alignments of the Earth and Moon and Sun. And that has certain implications, certain tidal implications, certain implications for space weather. And there may be natural events that come of it. I say natural with air quotes because, you know, these kind of things used to be less based upon laws and more based upon whims. This is how this game has evolved. We didn't always have the laws of physics and chemistry. They were evolved from trial and error. And eventually, playing this game of stars and planets and whatnot, galaxies, the laws became pretty fixed. And the game shifted to sort of a different dimension, if you will. Okay, well, you can only go so far, you can only do so much in the game playing one of these characters. If you really want to be making a difference in the long run, you're going to have to play these new soul vehicles, which are, like I said, the first chosen species was basically a self-assembling elemental race. Best thought of as, if you're familiar with the novels of Isaac Asimov, you will know that he envisioned the first robots. His idea was originally that humanity created robots. And he played that through all of his novels to basically come to the conclusion that humanity was creating their own God. That's a very humanistic near truth. The truth is that there were humanoid robots long before there was even DNA. Those humanoid robots created DNA as a rapid programming tool for soul vehicles to terraform other planets, rather than having to send one of their kind physically to another planet, another star system, which, as we know, takes a long time if you don't have the knack of time warps, if you will, being able to, or the warp drive, as it's called. If you can't go through a wormhole, create a wormhole, and get there very quickly, you've got to go under the limitations of the speed of light, which anybody who's been studying interstellar travel says, wow, it would take a damn long time to get anywhere that way, right? Okay, well, the solution was to basically invent DNA and seed the universe, basically through prayer. Because at that time, this first chosen species were basically servants of the gods, servants of more powerful elemental gods, who had been playing the game as stars and galaxies and planets, and were basically getting limited in their powers with new versions and finding, oh crap, I can't just make a planet do whatever I want anymore. I'm going to have to call on a higher consciousness, an older version of a god, to do the magic that it takes to get my kind to another planet. And this was their version of Star Trek then. They spread a few of these very powerful robot androids around to go basically terraform and explore the universe. And it was a group of those smart androids who rebelled against God, who destroyed this planet where they had originally been created 4.5 billion years ago, and caused us to have to rebuild. That was a really great reset there. It turned out it was necessary because we learned through the process that this first attempt at a chosen species was not successful. They were corrupted. They could be turned to evil by the adversary. The adversary is a same kind of entity as God, but created in the mind of God, created as a force to pressure creation. Because if you hadn't created anything yet, the first thing you would realize if you try to create something is, if there's not somebody telling you what's wrong with it, you're probably going to miss all the defects. And the second that somebody tries to use your great new creation, it will fall apart. And we're seeing that in spades with human creations as we try to push things out the door that we don't fully test for all of the defects and problems. We didn't see that, all of this wonderful cell phone technology has side effects. Side effects that are causing weird problems with species like bees and so forth, causing colony collapse, causing perhaps physiological damage to people. In some cases, that kind of data is known, but it was hidden because, rather than admit we made a mistake and tell people, oh gosh, this we better rebuild all the cell towers in a different way, try to distribute the signal in smaller doses further away from population. No, let's use that. And so rather than each generation of cellular technology getting better, they've actually gotten more damaging. And this is part of the reason for the pandemic. Because when China introduced 5G and started pushing it out as rapidly as possible so they could get ahead of the enemy America and overtake the world, become the new world superpower. They put these things in the middle of these high density, high population cities, and people started dying, having all these strange illnesses that could not be explained. That is when they started developing COVID. And also when they decided to start developing the vaccines. Because a good fraction of these evil people, and they're evil, I mean they're stupid. Maybe you don't think they're evil, but if you couldn't figure out what's going on by now, after watching what happened during the pandemic, watching all of the proxy wars and the trans insanity, you must be either stupid or evil. Okay, so they basically have been, rather than fessing up to what was going on, they basically doubled down and went even more evil. And that is essentially what's going on right now with the Apocalypso dance contest. We're seeing who's so ambitious, who's so materialistic, who is so warped that they would knowingly do evil, knowingly support evil, and rather than fessing up and whistleblowing, shutting it down, they double down. They get worse. They actually look for allies. So, you know, evil people that are perfectly hetero and even go to church will start slumming with atheists and trans people, all of these loonies that are on a different path to hell, a different highway to hell, if you will. And that's their choice. They're not going to win. Doesn't work out that way. Not going to work out that way this time, because why? The real Messiah got woke up, and we're past that. We're going to move on and into the next day of creation. But it's going to be painful, and this year is going to be particularly painful because what the adversary does is create predictive programming. During the time of their Messiah, they generate prophecies that then their team tries to self-fulfill. This is the way that the adversary has always tried to win creation. Basically, when they have the upper hand, they go and change all of the old religions, all of the old stories, the mythology, the history, and make it seem like it's pointing to what they want. So you've got this idea from the Bible that, you know, you're going to have some almighty, powerful Jesus come and blah, 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 throw bolts from the sky and la, 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 and get people all scared of, you know, an apocalypse. Well, you know, the vision of apocalypse in the Bible and the New Testament is pretty dark. Doesn't give much hope, except in the next world, which is true. That's the way it is, and it could be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You have a choice not to play that game. But you have to make conscious choices not to. Because the way that each version of space-time, or time-space, as I like to call it, is planned, is you basically alternate between planning teams, kind of like I talked about, I think yesterday, with how Microsoft makes new versions of Windows. There's 2 development teams, and the odd numbered versions of Windows are kind of shitty, and the even numbers are the ones that are good. Okay, why do you think Windows 12 has not come out yet? Because they know what the game is in Microsoft, and they're not coming out with it because they know they're not going to be getting something better than 11. It's probably going to be, you know, literally the killer version of Windows that maybe destroys the whole company. This pattern goes for companies, it goes for organizations, it goes in every collection of souls that you put together. They have their Messianic movement. They go from growth and becoming more successful to peaking and basically becoming corrupt and falling apart. And unless you know how to counteract that, as God does, then usually you just have one cycle and the whole thing goes away, or the company gets bought up by somebody else, like my alma mater, Hewlett Packard, or it gets balkanized, if you will. There's still a Hewlett Packard, but it's a pale corpse of what it used to be, and doesn't even include the queens of what was HP, the test and measurement business. That's a totally different company now. So at any rate, what about this eclipse that's coming up? The biggest fear that you have from the eclipse is not anything natural. It is from contrived events that are going to play on the fears and the hopes of Christians, because most Americans were raised in a Christian environment. The adversary, knowing that the chosen people of this age are the Americans, or in general English-speaking people, is going to be doing everything they can to destroy English-speaking countries and the English language. This is why some of the countries playing on the adversarial side, such as China, such as France, such as Russia, such as Iran, such as, you can go on and connect the dots, are basically trying to corrupt or de-emphasize the English language. This is happening all over, and some who appreciate the language as a unifying force are kind of on the fence. India falls in this category of, well, we hated colonial rule, but gosh, the English language has unified us in a way that we've never been unified before. And so this is, kind of the challenge of countries like India to play for the adversary or play for God's team. And this especially is why I wanted to have this special session on Ganesha, because this is one of the most worshipped Hindu gods, and one of the ones that is kind of a dual use god. Similar to many others, where even like most versions of the Buddha are worshipped as sort of, okay, if you do all this ritual bumbo jumbo jumbo jumbo, then you'll be successful and you'll get good stuff. That's the very simplified version of Buddhism. It's not bad, but it sort of promotes, encourages some things that can lead to sin. Greed will lead to sin. There's nothing wrong with wanting stuff, but if that becomes the center of your existence, that's a very materialistic goal. And materialism is not spiritual. They don't mix. Some of these New Age religions, New Age cults, are very materialistic, even though they say they are spiritual. If you are in a cult that worships vegetarianism, worships veganism, worships crystals, worships whatever, in this world, you're a materialist, not a spiritualist. This world is the physical world. It's the material world. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not the destination. You're never going to live forever. Or if you do, you're not going to enjoy it, because that's not what happens in the limitations of physics and chemistry. It's frustrating. You age. Things change, people change, they die. You're never going to be happy, perfectly happy in this world. Not even when you own nothing, Klaus Schwab. They're selling you a bill of goods. They're selling you a lie. Don't buy it. The truth is that you are being tested here. You're being tested to see which of the spiritual universes you belong in the afterlife. Or, if you're going to choose, well, I don't want to live again, Mr. Wizard. I just want to be one with everything. Okay, that's a choice. You'll rejoin the Borg hive mind, and you'll become an NPC character again. Your Merkaba will be wiped after they copy it to the Akashic records, and you'll get recycled as the next NPC character they need. Now, because there are 3 levels of existence for a soul, this is complicated a bit. So, if you remember, I teach that the physical incarnations gives you the physical piece of your Merkaba. Your 12D Merkaba is from 4 physical dimensions. The next 4 come from spiritual incarnations. These are who you are in other entities, universes. Which one of those is the highest heaven of God? Others are the heavens or hells of minor deities. The last is the experience you have in your own universe, building your own character. If you assimilate with the source, you may have vestigial memories of your other incarnations, but you will absolutely have nothing of your own left. You'll be basically remembering programming, not actual experience, programming. Because the only real experience that you have is what's stored in your own Merkaba. And a non-player character is basically the copy of the physical and spiritual experience of another character that is already assimilated into the Borg hive mind. And this is why there's so much complication with the human race, because every human is a non-player character. In fact, we all start an incarnation as a non-player character with 0 consciousness. There's actually sometimes a little bleed over from your previous life that children will remember up to about the age of 6, but mostly you don't remember that part of you. And most of you don't even have that part of you because you were not chosen as the avatar of a conscious player. When there is no conscious player that wants to play a part, a soul is randomly assigned from the Borg, a non-player character that fits the pattern for this new character. And the pattern is defined by DNA, the DNA souls, which carry their species and bloodline characteristics, plus whatever soul is pulled in as the leader, the oversoul of the human vehicle. If the oversoul is an NPC, you may think that you had previous lives, you may think that you had experience because of your DNA recollections. But you haven't. You haven't had to think for yourself. Or if you did, it's been erased because you chose to have a start over. And most of humanity are do-overs at this point, either because they were born that way or because they've already been judged and gone to some heaven or some hell and been replaced by another non-player character that looks like them, acts like them, does what they do, but has no outside memories to go on other than their program. These are very dogmatic souls. And you'll see many of them in atheist camps. That's a very dogmatic religion. And they get mad at you if you say it's a religion, but it actually is a religion. It's a belief, a very strong belief, a belief that is so strong they will ignore, completely deny there's any evidence that doesn't support what they believe. You can tell them, well, go look at the research of Dr. Ian Stevenson on past life experiences. They won't look. They'll say, oh, that's nonsense. It's bunk. Somebody debunked that already, so I don't have to look at that. Very dogmatic souls are almost certainly non-player characters. That's their choice. If you're assigned a character, you can just play it out like Pinocchio and do everything you're told. That's not the way to get ahead spiritually. Even if you happen to be cast as a good character, if you play the goody two-shoes and do exactly as you're told and dance when you're supposed to dance and do what everybody expects of you, that's not a creative character. That's not a character that's going to get noticed and, whoa, that one played this part better than anybody else has played it before, with more variations. And you know, this is where music becomes a good analogy. If you have ever heard really inspired music, you will know that it is at least partly improvisational. You may be playing Mozart sonata or you know, a cover of a Beatles song or something, but you add something to it. You add your own nuance, you add your own soul to it, and make it something maybe not better, but different. That is how you get noticed as a soul. We play these scenarios over and over and over again till we get the Messiah. But during the process, we find all these little m messiahs. Not the big M one, not the new incarnation of God, but little characters that, whoa, you played that round, you played Einstein better than anybody's played Einstein before. You made people laugh. You admitted you were wrong about shit. That's hard to find in a scientist. I think we're going to make you the new best version. This is how the game works. Somewhere, somewhen, there's a version of Hitler that became a shitty artist, made people laugh. And by God, that's probably the Hitler that's in heaven. A counterpoise to the one that's the worst version that's running the Hitler hell. That's how the game works. And you're in a great time right now. You're in the perfect time. You're in Middle Earth. The real Middle Earth. The 3 generations that are going to set the pattern for all futures, all pasts. All of the parts that haven't been created yet are in the process of solidifying. Some of them are not very solid yet. Some of them are just placeholders. Stars that we're seeing for the first time, that we're trying to figure out what it is, what class it is, how many planets it has, how far away it is. Is it a galaxy or a star? As we observe these things more closely, they will solidify into new scenarios. Of course, we're going to have to go to those places to be sure of those scenarios. That's where the Star Trek aspect comes from. We'll go there and maybe we'll see a vestige of an old civilization and we'll wonder, where did that come from? Who settled this planet before and what was their history? And that generates the other part of the game, the time team part of the game. And those folks will incarnate in forms that have the gift of time travel. That's not a gift we give away easily. You've got to have a ton of experience before you get to be part of the time team, because that's a dangerous assignment. You don't want to go changing the past. You want to look for better versions of the past. You want to look for better versions of characters in the past. But you don't want to go muck up anything that's already part of the plan. If you do, you're going to end up creating another universe and another place, virtual reality, that will be like maybe an alternate history universe. So, if you have this huge hard-on for World War II not having happened, or what was that? No, for the plane that downed and killed those musicians. That really famous one that killed Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, the Big Bopper. That's probably the most famous celebrity plane crash from my childhood. Maybe you're wrapped up in, I wish that hadn't happened and they would have made music forever. Okay, that's a universe. There might be a whole universe dedicated to bands and performers that died too young. Maybe Schubert is still composing there. Maybe Mozart is still composing there. He died young too. It's all possible. If you think it can happen. It will happen. It has happened. Maybe it doesn't have a lot of energy behind it, so it's like an ephemeral universe that popped in just because I said some words to you just now. Doesn't have a lot of energy behind it. That's what collections of souls are about. It's not to be all one, but to share dreams and visions. And to the extent those dreams and visions are positive and generative and creative, they will grow. At some point, perhaps those visions will start becoming corrupted, will start becoming divisive, and then they will. And that's what's happened in the United States. What's happened to every chosen people, every chosen species. It's a pattern. Nothing lasts forever. What we do is find new midpoints and build around those. So it's not just one people that needs a new midpoint. It is all the people of the world. The people of China need to find their new Chinese Messiah. One that plays on God and Karma's team, not one that's playing for the adversary. One that wants to create, not destroy, so they can build back better in their own image. And this is the challenge. This is the Twilight Zone we're in. America has its Messiah. That's done. The new version of the highest heaven is planned, and it looks kind of like the best time of America. And that's where we'll be training kids. That's where we'll be raising kids in a very healthy, positive environment where they will learn about good and evil. Of course, they're not going to be having it hidden from them, but they're not going to be groomed with evil. We're not going to entitle people to groom children with unhealthy, destructive, anti-creative nonsense. Okay? This is how it works. The other species of the other people of the earth, the other species who are here, have their own apocalypses going on, and they may not survive. Don't know how it all ends. It doesn't matter how it all ends, because the point of the whole thing is building a better system, better multiverse. And we're finished with that. We're finished with the major versions of building, and now we just need to clean up the lab and roll out the product to the rest of the multiverse. And the place that is most messed up right now is the lab here in Lucifer's universe. This chosen planet, this chosen system is pretty messed up right now because we've been conducting a really, really dangerous experiment. We got to clean up the lab by extending what we've learned to other chosen people, to other chosen species, to other planets, to other solar systems, etc., etc., etc. And that's where we're going. And you can play on either side. It really doesn't matter. If you like to be a sore loser, play on Lucifer or Lilith's team. Play one of the evil Luciferians that likes their power so much that they're not willing to change or learn, or hand over the reins of power to a successor if there proves to be a candidate better than they are. We got a lot of Luciferian bozos right now who don't want to let go of power, who don't want to let go of their notoriety, their fame, and who are getting in the way of better candidates. And Mr. Trump, Donald, I think you know I'm talking about you. Get out of the way, let Ron DeSantis run and be president. I don't care how you do it. If you want to go for the big surprise, why don't you, at the convention, announce, well, you know, I've thought it over, and Ron's such a great running mate that I think he should be president, and I will be vice president, and that will give me more time on the golf course. Don't care how you do it. You need to back off. You've done your job of opening eyes, but your big ego is getting in the way of doing the right thing for the United States. On the other side, I don't know what you're going to do. Biden is embarrassing. Was embarrassing before he ever ran. Was embarrassing to ever have been selected as a vice president after a history of pandering to big labor and big business. And those are not good forces. Let me tell you what the biggest mistake that the U.S. made is basically all grows out of this nonsense of some almighty God trying to give more power to whoever you think needs the most power is stupid. That's why America created these stupid, huge unions, the Teamsters and AFL-CIO, that represent so many damn people that they don't represent any of them. Germany got unions right. They dictated, their government said, okay, every business over a certain size will have a union. And they will negotiate directly with their business, with their location, if they have multiple locations, and negotiate for that group. That's smart. Then you've got business leaders and labor leaders who both are part of the community that they are in. They will do good things for that community, not do insane things that supposedly are good for all labor, decided by some jackass in Washington that's never worked a day in their life. You've got to get it out of your idea, your thick gourds, that bigger is better. That's not godly. That's illogical. It is anti-creative. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Remember that? That is truth. You have to distribute power, you have to balance power, and you have to monitor it. Have open reviews, public knowledge of what's really going on, or you don't have a government. It doesn't matter what the people are told if they're not told the truth. Democracy is the worst form of government if all the people are going to do is vote to give themselves more money. Vote to do things that the country isn't capable of doing just because we said. Reality is not a democracy. And they are using you with that word. They're turning that word into a god that you're supposed to worship. This is insane. This is just another postmodernist fake god for you, like communism and capitalism. Oh, democracy! Wise up, you fools. Don't fall for it. I don't want the planet to go away. I don't want it to be destroyed. I don't want it to be turned into an Orwellian hive mind run by a bunch of jackasses and from back rooms in, wherever they're escaping to, their latest Epstein Island secret hideout, Dr. Evil bases, whatever. This is what they're doing. This is where we're going if you don't do something about it. And there's no God on his white horse going to come in and stop it. You got to do it. Each and every one of you have to say no. Expose the people that are behind it, and maybe you'll suffer for it. It's time to take to shit or get off the pot. You're going to lose your job anyway. You're going to starve. Your kids are going to starve. You already see it happening. First it's eat the bugs. Then it's eat the Soylent Green. And it's, we are sending you on a special trip to an asteroid. You can mine the asteroid and we will give you extra rations. You will get air for the rest of your life. These are evil people. They do not care about you. They are not trying to make the world better. They are trying to make a world for them. They think they are God because they don't know who God is. And sometime, somewhere, somehow, they are going to die, and they are going to discover just how wrong they were. May happen before then. As I say, the plan has already been worked out in God's mind. It's just being implemented now. And God doesn't even know how it ends, because he wasn't in the last planning session. Because he hasn't been back to the highest heaven since he started incarnating too, and working his way back to being God again. A new and better version of God. So he's going to be just as surprised when it all comes down as anybody else. But I don't think it's all coming down on the 8th. There may be some really dark crap coming down for America because there's a bunch of enemies that are going to try to use that day to convince Americans to be more hateful, more divisive, more scared, more whatever it takes to achieve their agenda. And that's not the way God works. The bad stuff comes from the adversary, or from useful idiots that have been convinced to play on the team of the adversary. And this is the price you pay for having free will, for having free thought. I don't think you would want the alternative. And there are places where the adversary rules, where everybody is told what to think, how to think, when to think it, and is serving the state, owning nothing, and being happy. This is the land of the lotus eaters, folks. It's not heaven. It's not, well, maybe it is heaven for you, but you don't belong here. That's not what's going on here. It's not what's going to happen in the better versions of the physical universe. And there are better and worse versions. As I told you, the versions sort of alternate between, okay, let's let the adversary raise another Messiah to push things, you know, in the dark direction, and then we shift over and let the good side develop their Messiah. This is how the battle goes. It's not cyclical. Every time we go back and forth, we're raising new ideas, building new creations. A better version of karma, better technology, both spiritual and physical. And it's fun, keeping people engaged. Can you imagine how boring it would be if heaven was like it said in the Bible, where you got God sitting on the throne, and the choirs of angels singing praises, oh God, we love you so much. I wouldn't want to be there, would you? The real heaven is a fun place. People enjoy each other's company. They go on picnics. They go on long walks. They go to good schools with good teachers that give them a balanced perspective that doesn't include evil. Now, to learn about evil, there's a place called Sin City there up in heaven. Very clearly marked, very well bounded, where you can go and experience evil. You can see the dark side, because you have to know that it's there. You have to know what evil is to know what good is. That's why all of the nonsense visions of heaven in traditional religions are kind of stupid, kind of low consciousness. He didn't think it quite out well. You got to stop not thinking things out, because if you don't think things out, you're going to be a beast. You're just going to react in the moment to whatever hits you. And all of these gurus and stupid assholes are saying, well, you just have to be in the moment. You have to be. They're teaching you nonsense. This is only useful if you're an actor. If you have to be somebody else than you are, of course you want to be in the moment, because you're going to have to be living in a dream situation that it was written by a playwright or a screenwriter. That's not reality, folks. To be, you have to be in the future and the past. You have to constantly be aware of where you've been, where you're going to, where your world has been, where your world is going to. That's true consciousness. Not, oh, I'm losing my ego, oh, my ego's coming back. No, Mr. Wizard, take my ego away. Don't listen to that bullshit. They are not your friends. The ones telling you, oh, it's okay to be fat. You look beautiful. They're not your friends. Imagine if you had a big glob of snot sticking out of your nose and none of your friends told you. And then you realize when people were laughing at you, oh, I got a glob of snot sticking out of my nose. Why didn't you tell me? Those are not your friends. Being nice is not being a friend. Being nice is not being a good parent. You've been sold a line of hooey. by progressive nonsense. Don't fall for it anymore. Tell the truth. Speak your mind. If you hurt somebody, sorry. Talk to them. Tell them, well, you know, maybe I could have found a better way to say it, but I was just saying how I felt. This is what is good. Truth is good. Lies are bad. Now we have to tell children white lies to hide the evil from them until they're old enough to deal with it. This is a challenge every parent has to face. This is why we have to have school boards and parent-teacher associations to determine what is this reasonable balance of truth and fairy tale for a given age, to shelter them from things that they aren't ready to handle yet. That boundary has been completely obliterated by these progressive numby-gumbies who want to start teaching children about sex when they don't even know much more than, Johnny got a pee-pee and I've got, what do you call that, teacher? I've got a vagina? Wow, what's that? And you're teaching kids about sexual dysmorphia at that age? That is evil. Pure evil. You're not being nice to them. You're not supporting them to be the person they can be, they want to be. You're a fucking evil groomer. And the more people start standing up and pointing at you guys, you clowns, and laughing at you and saying, get out of our goddamn schools, the better. And if you want to shut me down for that, by God, you just try and do it. Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap up this one. Like, share, subscribe, and let's switch back to... Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the Honest Hour next time. Till then, Rob Trump saying, happy karma.